This is Limited Engagement.
I just think it's interesting, because money is symbolic, and again, there's all this shuffling and all of this kind of hoodwinking and sort of magicianship about the whole idea. I think I'm just dumb, and I can't comprehend the idea of credit and debt. And so I can't, part of me is well, but wait, if everybody's got credit and debt and everybody's operating with debt, if you just canceled it, what would all happen? Because it's everything's still running the way it is. All that credit and debt is it's a trust. It's a bond.
Capitalism essentially falls apart at that point. And that's, which is something, honestly, that I'm an advocate for.
Well, I'm just thinking but it doesn't change anything because it's if it's not they create money, so it's say you need to.
Well, but they do create money.
Well, but say you're trying to build a bill, and I'm interested in this, right? I think this is sort of, the work of a novel almost is I'm interested in this idea of credit and debt and economics. I'm also interested in fossil fuels, but I think that's a different sort of discussion.
So I'm curious. Let's rope this back in, because we've gone way off on a tangent. But I think that your interest in this leads to a point of conversation that I'm interested in that you're saying you think that this is the stuff of a novel, or is that something you've been working on a number of different works since I've known you. One
Sure.
to do with writing about working in the service industry,
right?
One to do with Kim Jong Il. Okay.
Well, Il is there but mostly Kim Jong Un. Right?
Well, because Il passed.
Because Il passed in 2013. No, 2011, I think 2012.
The Rodman piece, right?
Yes,
and
Dennis Rodman, and
which
Kim Jong Un.
And it's what sort of there's you've got some interesting tangents that you go on. What unifying sort of excitement gets you to want to embark on a project like that?
I think, ultimately what I'm interested in writing large projects. And I think that it's important to sort of set apart those two manuscripts, or those two manuscripts in progress, abandoned, whatever, I think since having stepped back from those and trying to sort of find a more balanced process, a more some kind of equilibrium that I'm reaching between writing and other components of my life now, I don't look at them as abandoned. I look at them as things that might get done in 10 years, 20 years, stuff like that. I don't think the ideas are going anywhere. So I'm interested in how individual lives are affected by larger forces,
Sure.
Be those history or culture or political economy, or even in some respects, say climate change or geology. And so I think that I think a lot of it, where it comes from, for me, comes from sort of the philosophy background or training, where you or I or anybody who's doing that is reading a lot of theory. And so these theories in the text sound very convincing, sound very compelling. These are very passionate, very smart people. So I read a lot of critical theorists, and I read a lot of post-structuralists, and so people who are quite critical of society and doing those kinds of observations. But it's different to sort of like, read the text and then to like look at the life and to see like, well, is this actually the case? I think that, excuse me, when it comes to sort of philosophy, or when it comes to how I kind of approach things, I'm much more pragmatic and empirical. And so like, I don't want to fall into a kind of positivist trap of creating a model that replaces the world. I'm interested in the world and what does that show in that particular case. And so with the manuscripts, part of it is because I think that they present interesting case studies. And so part of it, I think, is that I'm interested in the story for the sake of the story itself, first and foremost, which is I guess, a kind of roundabout way of saying that I think plot is important, or character is important. And, as I begin to kind of explore fiction, I think that is a very challenging thing to do.